Hi guys, welcome to Urban Platter's Simply Good cooking class. Today we're going to be making bibimbap. Now, bibimbap is one of Korea's most popular dishes that is gaining popularity worldwide as well, and for good reason. The word bibimbap might sound a little weird to you, but it's actually a combination of two different words. Bibim actually means to mix rice, whereas bap is the Korean word for rice. So it's a nice rice bowl that is topped with different vegetables and condiments and just mixed up and enjoyed. So for our bibimbap today, we're going to be using everybody's favorite gochujang and our two newly launched sauces, doenjang and samjang. So let's start making this Korean delicacy by prepping our vegetables first. So we just made a very quick pickle using our gorgeous Japanese rice vinegar and a little bit of sugar and some water. We're keeping this pickle very simple because we want the flavors of the vegetables to come through in our bibimbap. So what we did was brought some water to the boil, added about 2 to 3 tablespoons of this Japanese rice vinegar and about a tablespoon of sugar and just mix it all together and turn it off. So now that we've made our quick pickle, I've transferred it into a bowl just so that I can pour it easily over my vegetables. So I have some cucumbers that are sliced and some carrots that have been julienne, and I'm just going to take a ladle and pour the pickle slowly on top of these. Once this liquid goes onto the vegetables, you have to let it sit for about half an hour, and you'll have a nice acidic, slightly sweet sort of pickle with the vegetables. It's going to be delicious. So we're using this pickle quite warm because we want the heat to sort of slightly break down the vegetables. But if you're going to pickle these vegetables for a longer time, say for about 4 to 5 hours, I would recommend that you cool the pickle down completely just so that the vegetables don't turn into mush in those 4 or 5 hours. So for the bap portion of our bibimbap, I'm using Urban Platter's gorgeous sushi rice. I'm using this rice specifically because it's a short grain rice with a higher starch content. Because sushi rice has a higher starch content, what we have to do is sort of wash it really well 2 or 3 times under running water until the water starts running clear. What this does is all of the excess starch on the outside of the rice is washed away so that we have a rice that's not too sticky and not too dry either. So I just want to show you the difference between an unwashed sushi rice and a washed sushi rice. In this one, you can see that it's kind of like chalky and whitish on the outside. That's because all of that extra starch is stuck to the grain. Once you wash it really thoroughly, you can see how the grain starts shining a little bit because all of that excess starch on the outside is washed off now. So now that we've washed our rice, it's now time to start cooking our bap. For that, what we'll need is some cold water in which I've dissolved some salt just for seasoning. I'm just going to add this washed bap into it. We'll slowly bring it to a boil. Once the bap has been poured into the cold water, we'll bring it up to a slow boil and cook it covered for about 12 to 15 minutes or until the water is completely evaporated and the rice is perfectly cooked. So now that our rice is boiling, it's time to jump on to the delicious bibimbap sauce. Be very careful when you're making this sauce because the sauce is one of the main components of the dish and will make or break your bibimbap. To make my version of bibimbap sauce, I'm using our very newly launched doenjang, which is obviously a classic Korean ingredient, which is made using fermented soybeans, and everybody's favorite gochujang, which is made using Korean red chilies that are fermented for about a year. Or you can take the slightly easy route and use our samjang, which is sort of like a mixture of doenjang and gochujang all in one tub. So the first step to making our bibimbap sauce is to fry a little bit of garlic. I'll just add some oil to this, heat it up nicely. And in goes the garlic. We're going to cook this garlic until it's sort of golden brownish, and then we're going to add these apples. What these apples do is they add a little bit of sweetness to the bibimbap, so which balances with the umami of all of our sauces over here really well. Apples go in nice and sizzling. We don't want to cook these apples all the way. We want them to have a little bit of bite to them. So now I'm just going to deglaze my pan with a little bit of this Japanese rice wine vinegar. This vinegar will also add a little bit of sweetness to the sauce and the acidity that is needed. So now it's time to add our doenjang, which is a fermented soybean paste. We'll add a nice heaping tablespoon right in the center, and a little bit of our gochujang as well. So the reason that I'm not using samjang and I'm using gochujang and doenjang separately is because I want to sort of control the amount of spice, the amount of umami that is brought about by these pastes. So that's the only reason why I'm not using the samjang, because I like to customize my food a little bit. And should you also choose to do that, I would definitely recommend having all three of these tubs in your pantry, because that's just the easiest way to go about it. So now we're just going to mix these sauces in together and add a little bit of water again to bring that nice thick consistency to our sauce. Now that both of our sauces, the doenjang and the gochujang, are nice and toasty with the apples and the garlic, it's time to add a little bit of water just so that we have that saucy consistency. Now we'll just let this sauce bubble away slowly as it reduces and thickens up. I can just smell this. I really wish you guys could smell this room right now because it smells so delicious. And it's all the magic of the doenjang and the gochujang as a combination together, which the Koreans have cracked and have been using for years now. And guess what? Now you can use it as well. So the last step of this delicious bibimbap sauce is a little bit of white toasted sesame seeds, just to add that little bit of nuttiness and sesame flavor as well. And this sauce is good to go. I can't wait to try this bibimbap. It's going to be delicious. Now that this bibimbap sauce is completely ready to go, you can just set it aside. So our rice is completely cooked and I've let it steam as it's covered right now. So hopefully that when I open this up, there'll be some steam coming out. And you can see how this rice is perfectly cooked as I bring this up. It's not too sticky, it's not too wet either, and it's perfectly cooked for our bibimbap. So our bap is ready. We're just going to make a quick marinated tofu as the protein component of our bibimbap. Needless to say, you can choose any choice of protein for your bibimbap. We're going with some silken tofu today that I'll be marinating with some newly launched tamari, which is a gluten-free version of soy sauce, and our samjang. So we're keeping this tofu marinade really simple. I'm just using a little splash of our tamari and some samjang. So this nice thick tamari in the bottom and a little bit of this samjang. You can see the gorgeous color of this samjang as well. You can see how it's a mixture of doenjang and gochujang as well. That slightly orangish tinge as well. In goes the samjang, and we're just going to mix it all until combined. So we're just going to cut this silken tofu into cubes. Easiest way to do that is to cut it into planks, as we call them. Then you simply lay the plank down, one cut here, and without even moving anything, you just go down, and then you have your squares. We'll repeat that for all of these. You can even do 2 at a time. It's much faster that way. As we're using silken tofu, which is a very soft and luscious tofu in itself, we don't want to cook it and break down that texture. So all we're going to do is just simply marinate this tofu with the marinade that we made using tamari and samjang. Just pour it on to this gorgeous tofu. Another very important element of this bibimbap to bump up that umami flavor is our dehydrated shiitakes. What I've done is I've boiled about a liter of water for this amount of shiitake, and I've just dumped the dried shiitake into the water itself and let it sit in the water for about 10 to 12 minutes. I'm just going to show you how this looks when it's dehydrated versus when it's rehydrated. The difference is vast and the flavor is amazing. So I can't wait to use these shiitakes in the bibimbap bowl as well. I can't stop smiling right now, guys, because it's time to assemble this gorgeous bibimbap. The first step to doing that is our rice. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some rice in this bowl and we're just going to pack it up gently. Bang in the center. There it goes. The next is going to be Urban Platter's delicious kimchi that we have in partnership with the beautiful people at Bombucha. It's too good. Too good. The fermentation, the fermenty smell of it, the addition of the chili, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. That's a good enough amount of kimchi right there. So as we're plating this bibimbap, we're gonna sort of speak like how the time works. So for example, for me, this kimchi is at 12 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, I would say, we are going to go with our tofu, a gorgeous silken tofu that has been marinated with our samjang and tamari. If you like a little bit of more protein, you can add more of this. You can add any other vegetables that have been roasted or just simply marinated, just up to your liking as well. Then at 3 o'clock, I'm going to add some of our quickly pickled carrots. Then comes our quickly pickled cucumbers that we made. I'm just going to taste one because why not? That sweetness of the cucumber, crunch of the cucumber, and the acidity and sweetness of the vinegar, it all balances really well. I love these cucumber pickles, so I'm just going to add a few more of them. Then comes our shiitake mushrooms that we had rehydrated. So now that we've kind of assembled this bowl, it's time to finish it up with our gorgeous bibimbap sauce. This component is what will bring all of the other components together and make this bowl a bowl of happiness for you. So I'm just going to spoon a lot of this sauce on top of the rice, because the rice is actually going to soak up all of that sauce, and and it's going to deliver all of that flavor to each and every bite that you take. And then a little bit of spring onion. And our favorite white sesame seeds. And that right there is our Korean Bibimbap.